I want to say thank you so freaking much for 4,000 subscribers on this page. It's quite insane to me that when I started this at the beginning of the year, I didn't think that many people would be interested. I was kind of hoping, you know, for a couple people that would be active and engaged and would like what I had to say, because I know that my opinions are a little off book from what the typical Drag Race commentator does. And so I'm just very blown away by all of the support and all the kindness. I posted a couple of days ago that I would do an AMA for everybody who wanted to participate. It could be about anything either drag related or non-drag related. So that's what we are going to do today. There's one post on here from the community section, which I don't know how to comment on. YouTube won't let me comment on it. It only let me like it. I don't even know how this person posted on there. In any case, we'll start there because it's been sitting there for a month and I've had no way to reply to it. I must know your opinion on one of all-time favorite RuPaul's Drag Race queens, La Grande Dame. I like La Grande Dame as an entity. I know she doesn't really do much drag anymore, mostly been doing runway. I love how weird and wacky and kind of bonkers she is. I liked her in UK versus the World 2. I liked her in France 1. I think her overall humor is very niche and specific. That goofball that's very gorgeous is something that we see often, but I don't think very well done. Like, Fame tried really hard to do that beautiful goofball thing in season 7, but just kept like stopping, hitting the gas right when she would speed up. But La Grande Dame, I think, kind of figured out where her stride was on Drag Race pretty quick and nailed into it. I think she's insanely talented. I could never do what she does. I do think sometimes her ideas are a little too big for her, and I saw her hold up production a few times with not being able to really lean in on what she needed to do. But otherwise, I think she's very talented. Can we see more of your drag? Thought 1. Or top 5 queens of all time, not Drag Race exclusive. I will show you one photo that I have. I know I did a video talking about a bunch of my drag looks that is for members only of the YouTube channel, but this is one look that I saved. I'm looking at it on my phone while y'all can see it maybe right here. I made this. This is actually the garment that made me hate press sequins. If you ever hear me complain about press sequins on this channel, it is because of this garment. This ruined 3 needles because the glue that was used to put the sequins in clogged up my machine and snapped the needles in half. Literally 3 of them. I had to go to the fabric store, buy an industrial needle, and then basically like I would stitch, pull up the needle, and then wipe it clean with an alcohol wipe. Clean it. Clean it. And that took hours just to sew this, and this is princess seamed. So there are seams up here, here, and on the back there's 2. It was awful. Would not recommend press sequins. It turned out beautiful under the lights. I basically did an organza over the top, and so it created this really pretty, like, shiny matte effect. I can't really explain it. Doesn't do much justice here. It just looks shiny. But I was really proud of this garment. This would have been my silhouette if I kept up doing drag. I would have kept doing princess seamed bodices with big floofy sleeves, and then you know, flouncy skirts and stuff. I was very inspired by J-idols, so that was always the main inspiration. I will answer your second one, which is 5 queens. I don't know if I can come up with 5. I will say one of my drag sisters, she is Diva Dean, SoCal girl, super talented, very funny, extremely freaking funny. Athena Kills, another one of my drag sisters. She is insane. Did a number as Joan Crawford and actually did Ajax. There was a point where she like wanted to jump off the 2nd story balcony to do the Iman. I forget, Tandy Iman. She wanted to do that from one show. There was a point where she did an Evil Queen number and she had actual glass and punched it and literally like bloodied her wrist and her knuckles because she actually punched this glass, and we're all like, why did you not just use like tinfoil or something? Like, why did you do that? She's crazy and I love her and so cute out of drag. Jules Long Beach, super funny. One of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. And then someone that's been on Dragula, so kind of Drag Race adjacent, Kendra Onyx, one of my drag sisters from when I was still doing it. Kendra and I did a couple girl groups. She was the nicest person that I ever worked with. Back when I first started, I was very busted, and I was doing this pageant that I had no business doing. It was part competition, part pageant, and Kendra, week 2, I think chose me like second to be in her girl group because she really liked my energy and she wanted me to practice with them. And then later on in the season, she picked me to work with to try and get a chance for me to come back to the competition. Quite literally one of the sweetest, kindest people that I've ever met. How did you get into being a fan of drag? Was it through the show? Yeah, actually, I think my first season was season 7. My partner was watching all the seasons before, like he was very heavily invested from season 1 all the way to season 6, and then kind of dropped off around season 8 or 9. I think I was always kind of interested in the idea of playing with gender. I knew when I was a kid that something was different about me, but I didn't quite know what that was. And so when I found Drag Race, it was sort of like something had unlocked like this door to this gender expression that was always kind of hiding there, but I was very ashamed about. I had a lot of internalized shame about being feminine, not about even being gay, and that is on being misogynistic and a lot of misogyny that I had to unlearn through my life. That is from being from a Latino background where it's very machismo focused. My dad was very like manly man, don't do anything that's even slightly feminine, no pinks, no dolls, no any of that. Anything girly was very shamed and shunned. And so growing up in that harsh, toxic environment was really tough for me. But then finding drag and finding out that there are ways to live life in a way that is not just this way, it made me gravitate towards it like a magnet. And I just fell in love with it the moment that I sat and watched it. Who's favorite queen of the American seasons that's yet to be on an all-stars season? Stacey Lane Matthews. She will always live in my heart as someone who is a star. I think about her spinning in that cornfield in this like taffeta dress. Silks flowing behind her. It's insane. Dita Ritz. Icon, legend, cannot believe she's not been asked. Jaden Dior Fierce from season 7. One of the best entertainers from Drag Race that I've ever seen live. Anybody else that I really want to see? Maybe Dusty Ray Bottoms would be cool to see on an All Stars as well. I think she's cool. What are the 3 best qualities of modern Drag Race? I know very often you're critical of the show, so I would like to hear what you think its strengths are. I want to clarify, I'm very critical of the show because I love it, but I also recognize that it's TV first. So I'm very critical of the TV portion as it affects the actual real queer people that are making that show. I would say some of the better qualities of current Drag Race is that it showcases talent that we would probably have never known about. There are some queens that get on the show that I know of just from the grapevine or they pop up on social media. I think they're fun, so I follow them and then they get on Drag Race and I'm like, whoa, I've been following you for a while. I think the inclusion of certain music that I would never have heard before. There are lots of songs that have shown up on Drag Race that I fell in love with. I don't really listen to the radio. I don't have Spotify. So there's a lot of songs that I usually only hear because of Drag Race. And then I think artistic inspiration is a really good quality that current Drag Race has. There have been so many ideas that have branched out to other queens across the world that see some of the artistry on Drag Race and want to capture some of that magneticism, or they see something that is done on the show that they want to try to improve. I know for me, I love this show as much as I critique it. So there are times where I'll see a challenge and I'm like, how could this be reworked to make it better? How could we retool this? How could we make this season streamlined better? And so I think the artistic inspiration is really cool too. Who is, in your opinion, the most influential winner that we have had on Drag Race? Also, thank you for the congratulations. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? I would say one of the most influential winners, in my opinion, would definitely be Trixie because she has made an empire. There have been lots of queens who have done huge things, right? Like Jinx has made it to television and movies and Broadway. That's really huge in its own niche of entertainment and theatrical gaze. For me, someone who loves Doctor Who, seeing Jinx on Doctor Who is so freaking cool. Obviously, there are queens that really break out into mainstream and have a name for themselves like Adore that really just touch some part of the queer community that makes them gravitate towards them. There have been queens like Delta and Courtney Act who have these super successful podcasts, Willem and Alaska who created the entire mom brand, right? I think Trixie though has managed to break into mainstream in a way that really only RuPaul managed to do. And Trixie, in my opinion, is doing it more successfully than Ru. Trixie's got super successful YouTube, probably the most successful Ru Girl YouTube channel. She has her cosmetic line, she has her hotel, she has a couple of shows that have been on Amazon, I think, right? Or Hulu. Trixie has so many different avenues in which she is continuing to maintain her relevancy and her brand iconography. Trixie is doing something that no drag queen has ever done before. And I don't know if anyone will ever be as successful as she has been, because she's just got this raw charm and charisma that transcends through the camera. You really get a sense of who Trixie is without her being too parasocially weird with her viewers. And also she's been featured on tons of Twitch things, you know? She's like broken into gaming as well. Trixie has really done the thing, I think, in the most influential manner. And then this is sadly the last one, and it's kind of long. I noticed that in discourse about this show, people will often use "the cast was good" as a piece of stock praise for any season, regardless of its quality. I do that a lot. I think casting is one of the franchise's greatest strengths too, but I rarely ever hear people talking about when the casts aren't good, which I feel can and does happen. It does. So I'm interested to know if there are any casts across the franchises you personally don't like or don't think are good. So not about liking or not liking certain queens, but whether or not any given cast work together well as a whole to elevate the final reality TV competition product they participated in. Thank you so much for your question. So for me, I'm very harsh and critical about the show at times because, again, I don't like oftentimes how the production treats the queer folks that are making this show. It bothers me a lot. And I try very hard to not air my opinions out about the individual queens or the casts because I know that sometimes they watch things. I know that the Canada's Drag Race girls have watched some of my old videos, and I don't ever want one of the cast members to find something and look at any of my content and go, what does this little punk ass bitch think they're saying about me? They could never hold a candle to me. They couldn't do what I do. Because it's true, I can't really do drag anymore. I have long COVID. I get very, very tired and exhausted if I try to move too much. So performing is just like out of the cards for me. And so I try to be very kind and respectful while also being critical of certain things that I see on TV or how I think things could have been elevated. And so I always try to be really careful not to be malicious in any of my approach. To answer your question, I think that one season that really just didn't work cast-wise for me was All Stars 5. We have two triad groups of season 3 and season 10, which I think was a terrible mistake to cast the people that they did. I think the idea of triads are interesting because we had Relaska Talks in All Stars 2 that created this magneticism in the dynamic of the room where everyone kind of knew they're going to protect each other, even if they say they're not doing it. Specifically, they are protecting each other because they're friends. Friends will play a factor into All Stars. So having triad groups sort of protects at least like one person in that group and also creates a bit of a target because everyone in the room might want to try to break them up, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And I think the show went and said, okay, these are season 3 sisters, these are season 10 sisters, they're gonna lock in and create drama. But we had Alexis Mateo, who really seems to kind of be in her own universe on Drag Race. Mariah Paris Balenciaga, who had a bit of a relationship with Alexis their original season, but doesn't really seem to like be friends with her. And then India Farah, who was also really odd to pull from that season. I think if they were gonna pull 3 people from there, it should have all been Heathers or Boogers. Obviously the Heathers were a little bit, I think, out of the wheelhouse because you can't bring Manila back again. Raja already won. Delta was doing Rue's hair at the time. And I think Carmen has a blood pact oath against Drag Race. So then we're left with Boogers. Shangela was just on season 3 and we probably don't want her back. Alexis is a great pull, but she doesn't want to play with Yara anymore. So then Mariah makes sense, I guess, as a quasi-booger because she landed in the booger category right around Snatch Game when she left. But even then, I mean, I don't know if she was necessarily the best pick for that cast. I would have liked to have seen Mariah in maybe All Stars 8. I'm tangenting here, but it's all going somewhere. And then I would have maybe cast a third booger, which would have been Stacy at the time, considering she was massively snubbed for season 4. I think that Stacy, Alexis, and Mariah would have made a lot more sense. India's kind of a weird one there. And then the other triad group is Blair, Cracker, and Mayhem. They tried until the cows came home to pretend that they were really good friends and close, but they had horrendous group dynamics together, right? If we were going to cast 3 people from season 10 that were meant to kind of lock in, Cracker was not the person to do that with, and Mayhem was not the person to do that with. I think Blair was fine, but I would have maybe tied in 2 others. Even then, I don't know who I would cast with Blair. Maybe like Dusty, because the 2 of them had their religious storyline that was going on. They make some sense. And then maybe if Monet had not been on season 4, she would have been a good option for 5. Obviously, she's a little bit out of there. Mo was just on season 4, so she doesn't work, but she would have made the most sense. I would have completely dissolved the idea of the triad groups, and I would have pulled in people from the golden seasons of 4, 5, and 6. We desperately could have used like a Dita Ritz or a Jiggly at that time. We desperately could have used like a Jade Jolie before she went to Dragula, or I don't know, even asking Coco to come back. They could have brought in either Adore or April Carrion or Jocelyn Fox. Like, there are queens that they could have brought in from those golden seasons of Drag Race that were completely excluded and maybe shuffled out. I think specifically Mayhem, she would have worked better in All Stars 8, and I think they could have shuffled out India and maybe just never had her on the show. I think overall that group dynamic of All Stars 5 is so strange and bizarre. No one seems to like each other. There's this very distinct lack of the great seasons of Drag Race that have super strong personalities. There are girls that just got off that are super plugged into TV, and then there are girls who are super plugged into the competition like the old world was, and the 2 don't really meet in the middle. Shay is the only one who seems to be super competition focused and TV focused, but she's on an island of her own with like Alexis in a nearby island that is competing and also trying television, but getting super emotionally distracted because India is trying to sabotage her. The group dynamic wants to be drama, with India and Derek's fight and then India and Alexis later, but it just comes off as sort of petty barroom bullshit, and I don't think that cast was synergistic with each other, when the season before All Stars 4 had some really interesting group dynamics, and then in season 6 there are some really great dynamics there too. All Stars 5 sticks out like a sore thumb. I would say another one that I think is a little bit odd of energy cast-wise is season 10. I think a lot of those girls are really interesting on their own, but then you mesh them together and something just doesn't click. They have so much friction, but again, it's not really anything that is conducive to good TV. It just seems like y'all don't like each other and should not be in a room together. And that is especially weird, again, when season 9 was such a harmonious group, and then season 11 was so chaotic that it's just insanity from start to finish with non-stop bickering that goes beyond barroom bullshit to like, why are we fighting? It's kind of iconically chaotic, and I don't think season 10 manages to hit either one of those sweet spots. And that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for y'all's questions. I appreciate all of y'all subscribing to this channel and being a part of this channel's growth. I look forward to so many of seeing y'all's names that pop up and seeing what your thoughts are. And I just thank you for continuing to show up and to support and watch. And I hope you continue to enjoy all of the really great concepts and videos that I will be dropping in the future. But for now, thank you for watching, and I will see y'all on the flip.